In this video, we're going to look at how we use sig figs in calculations. And this is very important because when you're dealing with sig figs and you're doing addition or multiplication, you have certain rules you need to follow to make sure that our numbers have the same amount of sig figs as we started with. And so the first thing we're going to look at is multiplication and division. And this rule is the easier of the two. And that says your result should have the same number of sig figs as the factor with the fewest number of sig figs. And when you're doing addition, multiplication, whatever, you should always round your sig figs as your very last step. Carry out your calculation to as many sig figs as you want, but when you report your number, that is when you should be using these rules. So let's take a look at this multiplication and division rule. So here we're multiplying three numbers. You notice that each number has a different number of sig figs. Our last number has 2 sig figs, so it is the factor with the fewest number of sig figs. When we do our calculation, you see that we have a number that is 5 sig figs, and then since our lowest factor only has 2 sig figs, our final answer needs to have only 2 sig figs. Same thing with this problem here. We have 5 sig figs and 3 sig figs being divided. Therefore, our final answer needs to have 3 sig figs. So that's multiplication and division. Let's look at addition and subtraction. And here, we're not looking at the total number of sig figs. We're looking at the decimal places. And our result needs to have the same number of decimal places as the quantity with the fewest decimal places. So let's take a look here. We're adding 3 numbers together. This number only has 2 decimal places, while this number has 3 and this number has 4. Since this number has the fewest decimal places, our answer should only have 2 decimal places. Again, with subtraction, same thing. 1 decimal place and 3 decimal place, then we only have 1 decimal place. Note that when we're doing addition and subtraction, we only care about decimal places. We're not talking about in front of the decimal. We're only counting sig figs where they should go to after the decimal. And when you're doing this, if you line it up so everything is aligned by the decimal place and you just draw a line after the fewest number of sig figs, that's how many sig figs you need to know you have to have. So how about rounding? Because like I said sig fig should be your last step, so you need to round. Well, here are the rules we have for rounding. If our last digit is 4 or less, you round down. If it's 6 or more, you round up. And if you have a 5, just round to the even number. So examples, we have 5.37. We want to round up to 4 since it's a 6 or above. 5.34, 4 or below, so it's 5.3. 5.35, well, this is a 5, so we round to the even number. And 5.349, we only care about this 4, so we're going to round down to 5.3. Like I've said, only round the final answer. So let's do a little practice. Pause the video. Try to figure out the answer for this. I actually did all the calculations for you. You only need to report the number of sig figs. So pause the video, do that, come back when you have an answer. Alright, let's take a look at this. So our first one is addition. So we're just looking at the number of decimals. This only has 1 decimal. That's the lowest, so our answer needs to have 1 decimal. Number 2 is subtraction. 2 decimals versus 3 decimals, so our answer needs to have 2 decimals. Addition, 3 decimals versus 4 decimals, so our answer needs to have actually 3 decimals. So that is a typo on my part. This should be 23.447, so I apologize for that. This should have only 3 decimals with it. Now we're doing multiplication. So this only has 2 sig figs because remember, these zeros are insignificant. Multiplied by 4 sig figs, our answer needs to have 2 sig figs. Division, 4 sig figs, 2 sig figs should have 2 sig figs. So here, our last one is a combination of the two. First, we have subtraction. So this will come out with 3 sig figs after the decimal and 1 for a 5. So this number will have a total of 4 sig figs once you use the sig fig rules. And you need to do that. So when you have addition, subtraction, and multiplication, you have to be aware of what the addition and subtraction sig figs will be. So this answer would be 4 sig figs multiplied by 4 multiplied by 5. Therefore, we need to have 4 sig figs. And that's it for sig figs and calculations. If you have any questions as always, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.